Hello from Bali. This is a podcast Pigeon of Peace where we do discuss awesome skills of troubleshooters. Watch, listen, and check the description below for the details. Let's talk about expert systems and let's start with the definition.
It was a next big idea approximately 30 years ago. Some scientists decided that would be great if we could replace people or magicians or some other expert by a computer. It was so easy, even obvious. If you will put all rules which exist in the head of the specialist in the computer, it would maintain the conversation. For example, I am responsible for geology, or maybe I know something about space, and the student or a patient or guest will come and ask same question. If there is information which exists in database, it could be easily extracted and given in written form. So as idea, it was easy. But when it started to go to production, suddenly people realize that written form by non-specialists is quite different from how people who deeply involved in the area are talking. So there is a gap and it would be removed. And it was like maybe 15 years trying, it was a lot of attempt to improve those expert system, but suddenly they died. Everyone was understanding that it is not easy. And at this point, we start to develop internet, and internet slightly replace the idea of expert system. But anyway, in some areas, in law, in medical area, in chemistry and physics, exist several expert systems which are developing for almost 30 years. And if you are professional, you could use them.
Well, when we look into overall pipeline of the system, probably there might be different building blocks or components, or maybe even stages of conveyor. First one is might be like when you get the data, and maybe the last one is when the data will be outputted to the end user. So if we look into how the data, how the initial request is collected, how it might be look like, and what might be the constraints that were sent for scientists in order to actually collect not the garbage.
Good question, and I'll try to be honest as I could. Let's imagine approximately 30 years ago, and it is like 1995. At this point, you will never go to internet to search for anything, because it was the time when all websites were looking like business cards and nothing except of emails and streets are there. Yes, it could be also logos, but it would be in quality like 800 to 600, and the speed of the internet was like 4 kilobit per second, even in large corporations. And after 10 or 15 years, you could go into internet and you could search for something, and probably you will find. By the way, on the website of School of Troubleshooters, we wrote a lot of articles also in Russian and English with your help. And now some people, when they enter something in Google or Yandex, they could go and see. So let's go from the stage one. We need to understand how big is surface we want to cover, and then we will like cut it for small pieces. For example, it's like small bricks of knowledge which would be installed in the database. And when scientists decide how to do this, they have several opinions. First, we could ask several questions to any bricks and then answer and put it in database, or we could use, for example, scientific articles. And there were two approaches, and they were developing independently. But after some period of time, people understand that it is not easy to create such a request which would fulfill to the article or vice versa. So they start to divide articles for smaller bricks, and name of those bricks were paragraphs. And it was time, second stage was when everyone was thinking, okay, not articles, but paragraphs would be like amount, quantum of information. On third place, it was thinking, okay, maybe we could create sometime answer without knowing exactly how to answer. We would generate something. And this was exactly language large models. A lot of people think that language large models, this is intellect, but it's not. It's the part of expert system. If you will ask something from LLM, you will not get the right answer. You will get the compilation of the paragraphs which was given by different scientists from different countries with different level of knowledge and prophecy. Prophecy is like профессионализма, грамотности. Is correct?
That might be correct word. And when we look into the building blocks that you described, which were like paragraphs or anything like this, in the moment when there is a conflict, let's say, for example, just put it simple, two scientists, they had an argument just like trying to define which one is right. So how modifying and maintaining those blocks or paragraphs would looks like?
It's not easy, not so easy. For example, if we will enter data about purchases, you sell, for example, t-shirt, I sell like blazers, and we have almost the same database. Yes, it could be located in the clouds, but columns and rows would be almost same. But if we talk about knowledge, it will be not easy. For example, I wrote the article about pear, and you will wrote the article about apple, and another person would write the article about watermelon, but we will use another language, another descriptions, another, I don't know how to say, sequence of the phrases. So if, for example, we will ask what is bigger, a watermelon or apple, sometime expert system will not know how to answer. So it has a special so-called conveyor or queue. If something couldn't be answered, it would be stored for future resolution. And special people, they known as knowledge architects, they would try to understand how often this request could be fulfilled, and is it worth to add those data, how much they cost, and who will be the user? Is this professional interest or just common? And then it would be added. And you know, a lot of people, they have a lot of information in their heads as they think. But if I will approach to them like a knowledge architect, suddenly I would realize that there is nothing in the head.
Well, and then we ultimately go to the people, actually requesters, who exactly will get the information. So how to actually measure the efficiency of the system? Because at one point of time, yes, it might be whether the answer was satisfying, but I do believe it might be having like a multiple grades. It might be, I don't know, like a 70% satisfying. So this is might be one dimension. And from another point of view, it might be like a false positives or false negatives. Let's say like the person who requested actually can't understand anything, or vice versa. They might be pretending that they don't understand. I do believe this same thing is called like a poisoning at a certain point of time when you actually provide the wrong feedback. So how the evaluation and measurement should work here?
When you work in artificial intelligence systems, you will have ability to give the feedback, and it would be like a reward to the engine, to the core of the system. But if you work with expert system, you couldn't poison and you couldn't give the feedback because the system by itself doesn't interest in it. And there are several ways how to measure the usefulness, польза,
Usefulness, yes.
usefulness. Thank you. So first, how many requests were fulfilled? But you know, it's too easy to understand. If I give the answer and system has something to answer, I will get something on my screen or on my paper, but who will measure? Is it very close or relevant to my question or not? So it was on the first stages. Second, how many token would pay the person? And it was like system with reward. For example, Maxim will ask system about something and give like 3 credit, and I will ask also something and I will give 1 credit. And it doesn't matter how useful this answer was. It's a matter of the person, how to elevate it. And third is much common KPI when we can understand what would happen next. For example, I will ask, or you will ask the system about something, and for several times, and maybe for exam preparation, and we will get good marks. Is it result? Yes, for us. But for civilization, it's almost nothing. And another, for example, Einstein would ask the system about some small constant. We'll get just simple answer like 5, 3, or 8. And after this, he will develop the most valuable equation for the human history.
Well, then my last question will be how knowing about expert systems could help to make this world a better place.
I will say such an example. When I was working in Alpha Bank in Ukraine, I was creating a lot of different systems, and some with small pieces of artillery, and suddenly one girl approached me. She were from Samara. Her name was Marina, and he was previously coach from Sberbank, and now she was working as a head of consumer sales finance in Ukraine. And suddenly he asked me, I have so many trouble to learn my POS agent, point of sales agents, how to know the rules and how to improve their job. Could you please assist and write some kind of expert system? And at this point, I was so jealous because this was almost my way to live, my way to learn. So I know a lot about this. And then I create a so-called alpha expert, and this expert system would answer if the person will make some errors when printing the application, when fulfill some request. And after suddenly we realize that this system will do the job of like 900 people for 1 minute each day, and it was so strange.
Well, this is why now these days the people say that, like all of the technologies, they reduce how they call it operational cost. And we review the skill of expert systems and how they could be helpful for you. Stay in peace.